Hello. During the process last year of consolidating our parishes, it was very clear that the need for transparency in the parish as far as communicating well about things such as finance, buildings, and concerns that parishioners have was paramount and not always done consistently. One way that we wanted to improve on that was in the fall we put together a building committee. And our building committee consists of men and women who showed interest but also possess different skills from their jobs in their professions that can advise us. The purpose of the building committee is to advise me on our buildings, how we can address things in our buildings, the issues at stake, and to help to prioritize how we address them as opposed to just addressing them as they come along. It was clear that deferred maintenance in all of our buildings was at the center of the many different degrees of work needed in our buildings. I sought the help of Kevin Connelly, who's an engineer for the Archdiocese of Boston, who did a very extensive inspection and report of all of our buildings. He divided the different areas of concern into three categories: urgent need, which would have to do with structure or safety; things needed in the near future, so to be proactive about things that needed to be addressed in the next 3 to 5 years; and other areas that should be done that I like to call wouldn't it be nice, such as air conditioning, such as improving on systems and material we have, and bringing our churches up to code as far as the American Disabilities Act to provide barrier-free access to all of our parishioners. One way that we felt would be the most effective to communicate this would be using a video. Video has been very successful ever since the pandemic, and it will also be able to allow you to see what we're talking about as far as the areas of concern in our buildings. So in the following video, or the attached video I should say, Dan Quattrocchi and Mike Sullivan, two people on our building committee, will present to you the different areas that are most urgent to give everyone an idea of the state of our buildings. What's being presented is probably about 25% of our concerns. Very grateful for the work that the building committee has done and continues to do as they help to look at the big picture of all of our buildings and help us to prioritize what needs to be done and not just respond to things as they break. So please take the time to view this video presented by Dan and Mike and become familiar with what you see every week in our buildings and the urgency of them.
Hello, my name is Dan Quattrocchi. This is Mike Sullivan. We are members of the St. Matthew the Evangelist Parish Building Committee. My family attends St. Teresa's Church, while the Sullivans have been longtime parishioners over at St. Andrew's. And our committee was formed shortly after the new parish began operations last summer to assess the conditions of our 7 buildings on 3 campuses in the North, Center, and South Billerica. In the short video, we will take you through the churches, rectories, reviewing immediate, short-term, and long-term issues related to the perpetually deferred maintenance and resulting in the current conditions of these properties.
So, what is deferred maintenance? Most property and homeowners can relate to deferred maintenance when you put off the painting of your fence or having your air conditioning unit serviced. It eventually rots and rusts and needs costly repairs or complete replacement when regular maintenance could have avoided both. So deferred maintenance also occurs when cash is tight, when isn't cash tight in a parish, and when keeping the lights on outweighs the need for property maintenance.
These issues compound over time, as you will see, deteriorating like our homeowner's fence until the need for emergency repairs finally outweighs other cash priorities. These are typically more expensive repairs. It's the more costly way to maintain your property due to the urgency, and it further exasperates the cash flow problems that likely contributed to deferred maintenance in the first place.
So many parishes end up in this condition because of declining mass attendance and the resulting drop-off in the offertory. This, of course, strains budgets, cash flows, and overall parish operations, resulting in maybe next year projects for some truly needed maintenance. In addition, as pastors regularly change over time, important maybe next year items get further kicked down the road, deferred in perpetuity.
So simply put, whether you're a homeowner or a car owner, a pastor, or just a parishioner stewarding your church through the years, property, plant, and equipment must be regularly maintained. Regular maintenance must be carefully planned for, saved for, and properly executed from the first day each piece of property or equipment is put into service. A rainy day fund is paramount for this.
So due to all these factors, the deferred maintenance on all of our buildings is at an all-time high. From dangerous stairways, dangerous walkways and ramps, to aging heating, plumbing, and electrical components. SAME has well over $1 million of deferred maintenance across these 3 campuses. So with our video, we're going to take a closer look. All right, so one of the purposes of the videos that we're shooting here is to highlight major concerns that the building committee found during the tours that we did of the properties that belong to St. Matthew the Evangelist. And over here at St. Andrews, the rectory, the condition of the rectory is in very bad shape. As you can see, Dan is holding the former post to the stairs going up to a patio area that is now no longer can be used. You notice the water damage on some of this really, really intricate woodwork. And this woodwork is very expensive to repair, and it's deteriorating very rapidly. Paint's peeling. All the glazing on the windows is starting to crack and come out. If you look up, you can see all the rotting on the gutters and the rust, and it's leaning. So this is really, really bad over here.
Mike, on this side, we can clearly see an opening right into the building from the water damage. And I can see insects are pouring in there right as we speak. And all of this a result of the water damage from the roof all the way down.
Right.
And so what's behind the walls up top is one
Water
can only imagine.
damage inside. and it looks like there was just a very large stinging wasp hornet's nest removed from up in the corner over there. Also very dangerous. These stairs should be demolished so nobody gets hurt coming up. I mean, it's just really it's sad to see. And if you look up top over here, on top of the sit-in porch over here, the screened-in area, up there, all that railing on that nice fine woodwork is rotting away and just falling away to nothing. If you look up top, you can see the chimney is starting to lose mortar over here, which is not good.
Mike, here we are at the front of St. Andrew's Rectory, and you can see a lot of the same problems from the water damage coming all the way down through this nice overhang. This woodworking, this intricate woodworking is destroyed, unredeemable, and probably irreplaceable in today's market. Here at the stairs, while they look okay on the surface, probably some of our better stairs, as you get a little closer, you're going to see the same problems that we had at the other stairs. The same problems with the water seeping in and pulling this granite stone right off. And these stairs are going to be in real tough shape pretty soon as well.
Okay, we're over at the back side of the church, actually the sacristy side, and you'll notice that the sacristy windows here, the stucco up top around the windows is starting to crack. Not starting to crack, has cracked, and it's starting to separate from the wall. The water's starting to seep in. It's coming from the gutter, as you can see. If you look up top, it's right directly under the gutter, and it's coming down and it's starting to destroy this window. And you're starting to have all sorts of water damage around this window. We all know how expensive windows are. This is just a plain window. Remember, we replaced that window over there a couple of years ago, and that was $30,000 just to replace that window.
So much like the problems with the waves in the roof, you can see how that weight of that roof results in the bowing and the bending of the walls. Here's a good example out here where you can see the gap from the, pretty much a straight gap on this gutter here. You can barely see the gap down the other side because the wall is bowed out and it's curving back toward the street here. You'll see a few more examples of that inside and what it's doing to our window.
Okay, we're on the Talbot Ave side of St. Andrews, the side entrance. And again, more issues with stairs, entrance and egress into our buildings. The concrete that is just peeling away and chipping away. It's turning to dust. And it's probably from being oversalted, or we have ice that builds up coming down here, and it gets salted in this area, and salt and concrete don't get along too well. And it's doing it all over here, underneath here. This is starting to want to come off. The treads on this stairwell. We've got starting to chip away and fall apart in there. These are concerns. These are expensive repairs. As well as the right here. All over here.
That's basically walkway. The same thing as
the walkway. Someone who's not sure of a foot, an older person or a child, catch their foot in that very easily.
So at the same entrance, with the stair problem, we can see a lot of things that are wrong with the roof as well. As we look up, we see the snow grates. These should be parallel to each other. And you can see that over time, they are completely out of sync. And a lot of the warping and waving that you see here, we even have a slate shingle that's here in the gutter. So we're losing some shingles up there. We need quite a bit of work on the slate roof itself just to maintain it. But you can see there's some structural issues here, and we'll see that a little bit more on the walls in a minute.
All right, so I'm over in the corner here. And what we have here, these are slate shingles that have fallen off of the roof. Fortunately, no one has been walking by or underneath it when one of these shingles falls off. When we have most of our homes have asphalt shingles, and if those fly off in a windstorm, it's a cut or whatever, if we're lucky. One of these comes down, you're looking at a serious injury if someone's underneath it. See the tilt in the wall. You've got some weather stripping coming out of that window. And the water damage, if you look at these windows, the lights are on inside the church. But unlike the window on the sacristy side, the one that we just had repaired, if you stand in the back and the lights are on, you can see the beauty of that window from outside the church. Here, you can't tell that this is a stained glass window. Okay, we're still on the Talbot Ave side. As Dan was talking about the weight of the slate roof and the bows in the wall. I've been a parishioner here at St. Andrew's for 30 years. And one of the things that I'm most proud of this church are the stained glass windows. And the stained glass windows up here, if you'll notice, it's out of level. And, we all know that these windows have been a problem for a long time with opening and closing them. And, they're starting to fall into disrepair. This window isn't as bad as the one before it, but it's well on its way to starting to be like that one. And when we go inside the church, you'll be able to see, anybody who's been at Mass.
The main entrance to St. Andrew, you see yet another staircase with another large set of problems. This is precast stairs, unlike the brick and mortar work we've seen on some of the other staircases, but the problem is the same. It's water damage. It's attempting to repair it, but what happens with our winters and our weather is the water is going to continue to get into these cracks, separate, and cause more problems. We can see the railings have been moved out already on these stairs. And as we get to the top, even more damage here where the parishioners are most commonly using these steps. Doesn't get much better at the top. Mike, what's going on up here?
Well, we fortunately, this is not a structural column. It's decorative, but it's not looking very decorative right now. The stucco is starting to, has come off. And now what we're looking at is I can stick my hands inside here. And it's going to need some work. Okay, we're on the Coal Rush Field side of St. Andrews at the handicap ramp. And as you can see, we've lost some concrete here. I can stick my whole hand in there and it's kind of turning to dust. And we've got more cracks here, and this has been repaired, an attempted repair, and the repair is starting to deteriorate. And that happens again a couple of more times up the ramp. Also on this side of the ramp, you're starting to get down to the reinforcement steel of the concrete. It's just falling apart. Okay, at the start of the ramp, we have a railing. And if you'll notice at the railing, it's more than 3/4 of the way rusted through. And we're starting to have more rust issues all the way up. Concrete is starting to fall away to the reinforcement steel in the concrete. It's cracking. You've got a stress fracture all the way down. We've got another attempted repair here, which is already starting to fail. We're losing, this is another seam here on the concrete. This is where they stopped the pour and put these two pieces together, and this is starting to come apart.
Here at the top of the ramp, at the entrance from Col Rouge side, we see the same type of stucco problem that we had out front. While this isn't immediately structural, the water damage that's happening here is only going to get worse. And we're going to have leakage and sill issues very soon across this threshold. Inside St. Andrews, on the Col Rouge side, we can see the problem of the walls bowing out, causing the window problems, causing the stucco problems, causing the roof shingles to come down. And you can see it pretty clearly on this wall. While it might be difficult on the camera, you can imagine this wall is pretty square down toward the floor. And while I don't have a level, as I pull this up, it's pretty easy to see how that wall is pushing out. And all the way down, a little less toward the front, a little more toward the altar. This is the problem that's causing our windows and roof issues.
So, I've been coming here for a long time, and as with my own home, this is my spiritual home here. And if I was in my own home and I was walking around and I was seeing issues, it would bother me, it would disturb me. And it bothers me a lot to be in this place, my spiritual home, and doing a walk around and finding all these issues that are wrong with my church. So if you look at these windows, have been being opened and closed every Sunday for years and years. And you can see it closes on the bottom and it's wide open on the top. And you need a ladder to get up, close the top, and it's the same is true with every window as we go down. And again, you can see how the window has lost its luster, unlike the window above the altar. We've got a crack here in this window. The gift from the McCarthy, in memory of their parents. You see a nice little crack in here. I'm sure that would disturb me if it was in my home. We've got another one over here. It looks like the lead, these pieces of the glass that keep it together is starting to fall off. And you can just tell that this window was once very vibrant.
We're inside the church now, on the right side of the church on Talbot Ave. And we can see the bowing problem of this particular wall compared to the other wall is even worse. This wall is jetting out profoundly or pronouncedly, I don't know how you put it. It's a really significant distortion of something that should be square. And again, on this side, we're going to have the same problem with these 10 windows not closing as the 10 on the other side. And not sure that there's a reasonable solution to this problem. It's very, very big.
All right, I'm standing in the center aisle of the church, and as you look up, you can see those look to be 7/8 steel rod with couplings on them, and what they use that for is to pull the roof in at the edges. So picture, if you will, that my hands were on those rods at those couplings right there, and I was pulling them in. The bottom of the roof, where it ends, would pull in. That means the top of the wall would also pull in. So this problem was starting to be addressed a long time ago. Here we are at the rear entrance of the church, and we're looking at a very, very, very dilapidated stair going up into the church. And you can see the cracks in the cement. The brick is starting to come apart from the steps, and water was going to get in here, and especially in the wintertime, ice and water is going to get in here, and it freezes, and it's going to make it even worse. It's in pretty rough shape right now the way it is. If you look at the railings are starting to come out. Those are crooked, and they're a really big hazard. You'll notice down in here we have openings for water and ice to get in. It's in pretty rough shape.
Here we are a little bit further to the left of that entrance, rear entrance to St. Mary's, which, by the way, is the most used entrance of this church for stairs. This, of course, is the only ADA ramp into the property. And you talk about deferred maintenance. You look at this ramp, it doesn't really look that bad to you on the surface, but as with a lot of deferred maintenance, what you don't see builds up over time. So let's take a walk around. And you can see, as we just start here, that the concrete's buckling coming off of the ramp. It's been repaired several times already, but the problem keeps coming back because this concrete design is not optimal for this particular situation. A little further down, you can see how these posts and rails are coming apart. The rusting is going to be a real issue soon. And while the ramp is still safe to use right now, it's not going to be for very much longer. A little further down here, you can see that the problem gets worse the higher we get up on these pilings, and just more and more water is following down into these cracks. And when I mentioned deferred maintenance, typically you would seal these once a year or every year or so, try to prevent any kind of water damage. But when you defer that maintenance because you don't really necessarily see it all the time, this is what ends up happening. Here at the base of the turn for the ramp, we can see more problems. I can almost get my entire hand into this hole, which is only gonna get bigger. As you see the D-lam continuing up there, on the way to the door, it's going to, and on the piling below, and you can see the rust is going to be another issue along with the decomposing concrete.
Okay, now we're at the front entrance of the church. And as with all the entrances, we're in pretty hazardous condition. If you look down here, a island has been placed to make people not step on these bricks. Now, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want my grandmother walking up these steps. This is in pretty bad shape. This is actually pretty bad. We have it on the other side too, over here. More issues. Bricks just popping up, concrete, mortar just turning to dust. Now if it's happening here, I'm sure it's happening everywhere. A lot of this stuff is in really, really bad shape. This whole corner just comes right off.
Right along the visors.
Yep. Jesus. All these risers, all of that stuff that I just showed you down there is starting to happen here. The mortar is starting to deteriorate away, and these bricks are just going to start falling off. Up top is even worse. You look at the water damage on the landing up there on the wood. I'm feeling it right now. It's moist. Right over here. With enough pressure, I could probably lift this right off. It's barely holding on. And I think the video speaks for itself. These stairs are atrocious.
We've moved on to the left side of the chapel here. This would be the side that gets, I would say, the least amount of sun. And you can see that some of the problem with that is deferred maintenance on these windows. And over time, you have this peeling and cracking, which is a lot more than a simple scrape and paint after this amount of time. And these are all custom-made stained glass windows. You can see the leaking that's causing opacity in some of these panes. And each one of these windows is as bad as the next one, in case the video can't quite show you that. It doesn't take too much time for deferred maintenance to pile up. And this is what it looks like. Now we're over here. Addition to the windows, you can see some issues with the roofing. Some delamming on the vinyl up here, which could be a water issue. You can see the over here on the floor, on the ground level, the defunct AC unit for the main church, inoperable, and obviously in need of replacement.
Hi, we're over at the Rectory now. We've done a walk of the perimeter of the main church building and found several major issues just in our walk. Most of them with entrance and egress from the building itself, which is very, very dangerous. But now we're over to the Rectory, which has so much deferred maintenance on it and so much water damage in it that this building is pretty much uninhabitable right now. If you look at over here, again, more problems with stairs. We have bricks coming apart. We've got peeling paint, warping thresholds. Over here, we've got water damage on the sill going into the basement. Over here, if we just keep going around, we have an opening in the threshold over here, going into the main house. That's a problem for pests to get in and out of. Over here, we have more cracked vinyl. Right here. Look at I press on that and water just pours out of it. So water is getting in behind these cracks and getting to the shell of the house. Over here, this is the entrance above the ramp to the garage. Look at the concrete. It's just disintegrating all the way down. And this is just on this side. This job here, to have this repaired, we're talking thousands of dollars just to repair this concrete.
On the other side of St. Mary Rectory, we see that the problems continue. From the gutters, the old wooden gutters that have not been oiled or painted, now leaking and clogged, and probably various forms of plant life growing up there. You can see it tumbling down the side of the facade here. And wherever there's a crack or a hole or a seam, you know water's getting in behind that. A little further down, you can actually see the water. Today we had a little bit of rain. You can actually see the water up against the building. When we get a little closer, you'll see how it's torn apart, the window frames. And when we go into the house, which we're not going to do on this video, the smell of mold in there is almost unbearable. On all 3 levels, right down to the basement where you can see additional cracks, damages to sills, water seepage, and serious problems. Here we are at St. Teresa Church, and we're out front of basically our newest church building. But as you're going to see, like all the other properties, it suffers from some of the same problems of decaying windows, decaying stairways, and even our brand new set of doors are already delaminating, chipping, and in need of desperate maintenance. This is a fairly new project, and deferred maintenance is going to rear its ugly head here very shortly. Right up above, you can see the disaster that this window is, and sadly, most of the windows around this church property look just like this. Even here on recent inspection, we got our pencil right through the rotted wood, directly through the rotted wood, and it's probably the same along the entire sill line. You can see the chipping and cracking all the way up. And trust me, it's the same around the property as well.
If you'll notice down low on these archways, this wood is starting to become water damaged, weathered, especially down low. It's starting to get some dry rot on it, some water damage, and it's starting to rot away.
One of the benefits of this set of stairs is that it's much larger components. Huge slabs are not as prone to cracking, but we still have the issue of missing mortar, and the joints are coming apart, and every winter this is getting worse. We have complete separation here and all the way down the corner. And just because they're larger slabs, they're not breaking off like we've seen, but it's still deferred maintenance that needs to be addressed.
All right, here we are in the crying room slash restroom in the back of the church. And it's a fairly small, cramped area, but inside here on the brick wall, you'll notice that we're starting to have separation of the wall in the corner here.
Inside the main church here at St. Teresa, we're going to see that despite the fairly young age of this church, the flooring has been a problem for some time. And it's not unlike problems we've had in other buildings on this particular property. But as you look down here at the flooring, you can tell that we've been making repairs to this linoleum type flooring over time. We have a new patch system for some of the more aggressive tile removals that have been happening. I'm not sure that you can see the cupping and all of the rest of this linoleum that hasn't yet split, but it's really coming up on virtually every single tile. This side of the altar, we can see that many patches have been installed similar to that one right across the aisle. You'll see them under the pews. You'll see them covering the thermal heat vents for the radiant heating that is 70 years old and 60 years old and runs underneath this property. And if you think about what it would take to repair this flooring, obviously you have to get the pews up. And while you have the pews up, all of our kneelers, or many of our kneelers, are in this kind of state of disrepair. Some have been patched. Many have come back to this state of condition. So when you think about the entire floor for this enormous space, and you think about removing all of the pews that is going to have to be done, and the kneelers being refurbished and reupholstered, it's really quite an enormous job.
Okay, we're going to spend some time talking about the heating system. When we first inspected this heating system at St. Teresa's, one of the things we noticed was this pipe right here. If you'll notice, there's a coupling. There was a repair made from here over to there, and this piece of pipe was replaced. But obviously, these unions here are leaking pretty badly. So this pipe here needs to be taken care of before it rusts again. And if you'll notice, a lot of the covering is breaking apart and flaking off. So the heating system at St. Teresa is a forced hot water system. It's gas fired. The boiler looks like it's in fairly good condition. But the heating system here at St. Teresa is a radiant heat system. All the pipes that heat the upper church are embedded in the floor. You have copper pipes like a grid in the floor, and the floor heats up, and that's where the heat comes from. And it radiates up from the ground up. That's where the term radiant heat comes from. But that is probably what's causing the problem with the floor, with the VCT, the vinyl tile, where it expands and contracts all the time. The floor is warping and cracking.
In the opposite corner of the basement in St. Teresa, we see the master electrical panel for this facility. Unfortunately, we really don't see it because it's covered in trash bags to prevent water damage reaching the electric panels. We've got holes from the pipes coming in, deteriorating concrete. Several patches have been made to the other entry points around here. And finally, the plastic bag treatment of last resort to keep the power on in heavy rain. Obviously, serious problems in the foundation, not unlike other properties on this campus. But this one is, like the other corner, jeopardizing the electrical plant here in the church. Folks, we're back upstairs at St. Teresa. We're in the altar server's sacristy. And against this left-facing wall, we see the problems with masonry in this facility. The crack here is not superficial. It's going directly through this concrete slab. And you can see it's also here directly through the slab all the way down, all the way to the floor here, all the way to the floor here. And at least 3 or 4 other major cracks along this ceiling line to that back corner crack where you can see the blocks actually starting to separate. Okay, we're outside now in the rear right entrance to the church, the main entrance to the main parking lot. And what I want to point out, similar to the front of the church, is how the water damage is affecting the woodwork here. This beam goes all the way to the center of the church. And the end of this, if I wanted to, I could push this umbrella right through it. There is serious problems going on here. They need to be addressed, and they need to be addressed immediately.
Okay, we're at the rear of the parish center, and we've got some serious water damage going on. If you'll notice, there's no gutters up top here. And that is causing the water to come down and land right on these window sills. And you'll notice we've got water damage, loose window sills all along the bottom, and all the vinyl on the bottom is starting to get weathered and damaged. You'll notice a piece of vinyl that's just fallen off. Dan, what's over there?
More of the same, unfortunately, Mike. More vinyl damage and water, deferred maintenance from water damage that's really going to get in trouble real soon in these windows. If they're not already leaking inside, I'd be surprised. Here with a little bit of covering, although the covering is suspect as well. The doors get reprieve from the water, but are still pretty well damaged from lack of the gutters on this side of the property. That door's warped, wobbling, not in good shape. Neither is the rest of this side of the property. You can see that no gutters here either. Although the roof line flows this way, we still have problems with the vinyl. After a while, deferred maintenance gets the better of your property. All of these windows had to be replaced. They were similar to the ones you just saw, only worse. We've installed a gutter over here and emergency vinyl repairs around the window casings. This was done at high cost because it had to be done very fast because of the water leaking inside. We still have heat units here that are old and not working efficiently that also need to be replaced in this parish center. Here beside the religious ed office, we can see that some emergency repairs were made here. A gutter has been installed and some additional vinyl repairs were made to the damaged windowsills that looked a lot like that other side.
All right, so we're coming in the building, and this is the area where all that water damage was that we were just outside. That area that we just showed you is to our right outside, but as soon as we walked in the door, the smell is horrific. Okay, we're down in the basement of the Rectory, and if you look around, it actually looks pretty nice down here. But when we did our initial inspection, Dan just mentioned that it was
in pretty tough shape. There was mold in a lot of places. We noticed all the cracks in the foundation, and they had seemed to have been just not even mitigated, just basically ignored to allow the mold problem to grow. The mitigation they decided on was simply pulling stuff off of the floor. That's about the extent of what was done. It really caused a health issue for the folks living in this building, and despite it being the newest property in the parish, it had its fair share of problems. So immediate solutions were needed.
So one of the things that was causing the problems in this basement, where water is and standing water is, you'll find mold. If you'll notice, we have this system here. This was the emergency measures that were taken to take care of deferred maintenance. This is a system that grabs the water from the crack and brings it and directs it into a French drain underneath. You can see they had to jackhammer the floor up here to put a French drain, and then all the water is directed down into the ground. And it's done in several areas, 9 to be exact. There were 9 cracks in this foundation, and water was just pouring out of it.
Thank you for taking the time to acquaint yourself in this video with the state of our buildings here at St. Matthew's Parish. The building committee and I, along with the Finance Council, will continue to see what course of action needs to be taken and what direction we need to go in. This video is meant to just bring you aware of our buildings and what we're having to consider and make decisions about. Thank you again, and thank you for all who have made this video possible.